Live. We've got Kelle here today. Kelle's just is unbelievable as far as what she can do, who she is, and what her intentions are. And that's really kind of what's mirroring throughout the audience, throughout the show, is people are starting to model other people who look really relaxed, really confident, really optimistic. And that's really more organic and natural, where people get attracted or get magnetized over whatever time is comfortable for them, right? So anyways, Kelle, why don't you say hello and share your thoughts about what we're doing and whatever else you can come up with.
Which I can come up with some stuff. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching. It's so great to be back, and now Thursday is my slot, so be sure to tune in on Thursdays, but every day at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. For me, Dawn, this week has been very exciting to see it unfold. As we were just talking a little bit before, it just continues to organically grow in this super cool way. But I love seeing, some of the folks that I introduced you to. Christy now is going to be on Tuesdays, I believe, as a regular. Kendra filled in on Saturday and did so great. I mean, you couldn't have made up the polar bear, her being the zoo trainer with the polar bear, and Ted Bear is now her new kindred spirit. Who tuned in to watch Chris, and which was great. And he stayed, and I, got a taste of what goes on here, which was so awesome. And I do look forward to seeing Christine Feedy getting on March 4th. And just to go back to the whole thing, it's watching everybody just come on and, have their cup of coffee, their tea, have a conversation. The audience is interacting more. There's been so many new names come in, which has been super exciting to watch. I personally am getting a lot of messages on replays even, sorry I missed it live, but I just watched the replay and maybe had a question or just even a comment. And, how great is that? It's just spurring feeling in people. It goes to the whole thing. All this is a conversation. We're not here to sell anything or do any, we're just here to support everyone. LinkedIn, this platform is amazing, and it's so underutilized, and I think so many people have unfortunately had to come back to it, whether they've been laid off or like myself. 2020 changed my career path, and I became an accidental consultant, if you will, an entrepreneur. So I think people are coming back and looking for ways. One, how do I use LinkedIn? I sort of forgot because I haven't been using it. And or how can I use it to its best and highest use for me to spread my message, as opposed to perhaps a message that you think people want to hear. It's just getting back to being real and connecting with people and having real conversation.
Yeah, and here's the beauty of it. Everything we've tried to build with this program was to make it simpler, to make it easier, to make it less thinking about it, and less homework after it's done. People put so much time into the packaging that they really forget about the presentation. And to me, what we're really hitting a vein, and I'm talking about like in a gold mine, not like in an arm, is what people need to be successful is for them to be optimistic about the future, right? And once you see that there is a brighter future because it was never there before, like LinkedIn Live. This has all been possible for me and everybody else because of LinkedIn Live. If we would have just had a posting group, and it would have been so much work, so much trouble, and every day be wink, wink, nod, nod. Where what's so cool is when I bring a guest on who hasn't had a lot of exposure to the group or hasn't participated that much, you can see the difference in how they approach the audience, right? They're self-promotional. They're always sharing links and stuff like that. And it's almost like they got a stopwatch. It's like, how much of this stuff can I get? You know, supermarket sweep. You know, how can I just go out and grab as much of this and get as much as that? And what they don't understand is what they're promoting minimizes their story, minimizes their credibility, because you should have enough confidence that once you share who you are, people should have enough intelligence to put it together to see if that's what they like. Right? If you give somebody a spoonful of ice cream, you wait for them to taste it and tell you how it tastes. You don't, and by the way, I want to give you 20 more facts about how this was made and where you can get it. And I sell it, by the way, and here's a 20%. I mean, that's even worse than selling right out of the gate.
Yes, yes, and it's so boring. And then it goes to the whole thing of, people never buy anything based on logic. It's based on emotion and how we make each other feel, which that's the magic of what goes on here. Is I love seeing someone come in and making a comment like, gosh, my day started off kind of sluggish and I wasn't really feeling so great, or I've been in kind of a rut lately, and wow, this really uplifted me and I feel good when I'm leaving. I mean, drop the mic, our day is done. Like, I honestly feel like turning one person day around and feeling better, when they leave than when they arrived. There really is nothing better. And I did see that Christy put in the comments, I apologize, she's Fridays, not Tuesdays. So yes, so that would be a very early Friday happy hour for me here, but I guess it's 5 o'clock somewhere at that time.
Well, the great thing about Christy and Kelly and Gretchen, I can keep naming names, is they all have wonderful personalities. And by having a time and a place and a date, they have a chance to really share the best of themselves with a interested group, a supportive group, and in time a friendly group where Ambimbo has been here every day. Yes. Since she was attracted to this through Jason Wilson, right? And Jason and Ambimbola, have known each other, I guess, or interacted like we do. And all of a sudden, she decided to add this to her curriculum.
I love it.
If you're into my opinion, you can't lose, because either you're earning or you're learning. And in most cases, to be honest, the learning's more fun than the earning, because the earning, you got to go to work. You got to work with someone else about something completely different. And you get hard to be true to yourself when you're not following your passion when it's there for you. When you don't have anything to be passionate about, or you're not passionate about anything, you take whatever there is, and then you're into one day leads to another. I love what Ambimbola said, besides just good evening, because it's actually 9 a.m. in Denver time, and it's -10, by the way. I'm very optimistic of a great tomorrow, and not only do you feel it, you say it, you express it, and now you see it, and now everybody around you sees it. And if nothing else, we know you're optimistic about tomorrow. And your mind is kind of funny. It might be thinking, am I optimistic about tomorrow? And maybe I should be. See, an hour of this is almost like going to the gym, but it's here every day. The problem with things that are once a week, once a month, by they come around, you lost the consistency. And sometimes you need this for 3 days in a row. Sometimes you need it for 20 minutes. And sometimes you watch it at home. But the cool thing is we're getting better because everybody's melding now. It isn't strangers that look at each other from a distance. It's like people get around a table, and now people are locking arms, right? And saying, how do we take this to the next level? And I want to share something with you, because I always say, and I love talking about what we're talking about, but there's a whole new avenue no one's walking down that makes everything we're talking about so much more valuable, because the audience gets amplified. And I've always said content without audience is nothing. It's writing for yourself and a
That's right.
couple friends. So let me share the screen. And this is just 7 days of content performance. Impressions went up 90% from 10,000 a week to 19,000.
Wow.
And it's all because of just reformulating my content, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, actually, I'll see if I can. I'll just see, update it right now. Oh, it went up another. Now it's 92 point because we're not done with today. So this is 7 days.
Love it.
But this is going from 500,000 impressions to 1 million in just a week. And I probably invested maybe 20 more minutes of just, adding a poll, adding a newsletter every day, adding 3 posts, a LinkedIn Live, and everything takes me probably another hour a day. But why not be seen by twice as many people? Because then everything you do is worth more. And if you have a show, the minutes we're being seen is incredible. We're up to like 600-700 minutes at times an episode. And this is just when it launched. This will play for the next, I don't know how many years and be shared. So anyways, I couldn't be more impressed. And that's why I believe that if we can get into some sort of initial collaboration group, which I'm trying to set up, is really get everybody up to a really high level of proficiency in a small amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the time you spend once you know how and what to do will more than compensate for the time you invest in it. But I think the gratification of knowing, since we're not sales oriented, and since the message is so important, double the reach is benefiting the public who doesn't know about the message or doesn't know about the program.
Mm-hmm.
And says to themselves, really, the Empower Hour is about getting on here, learning it, right? And then doing it, and then doing more of it, because the beauty of it is it's limitless. You could be on 40 hours a week if you feel like it, right? But if you know how to do it and it works, I mean, everything comes into play when the numbers start working in your favor. Ambimbola says, impressions is great. Yeah, and it's just getting started, right? It's just there because it'll get better next week. Even now, when I'm doing the post, I take a lot of the top headline of the person who's going to guest and I put it next to it. So it used to be, Kelle and Don. Now it's Kelle with, all the stuff she highlights on her profile. It only takes a little bit of cut and paste, but now that person gets more visibility, right? So if everybody can shine a bigger, brighter spotlight on everybody else while they're shining their spotlight on you, it gets illuminated and magnified in ways that those who are working independently or are working defensively, like, don't share anything. We've got nothing original here, which is great.
Hey, I'm original.
Yeah, but I'm saying we have no intellectual property. We have no patents. You could take, it's just, if you got a better saying, good for you.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell everybody I'm into cooperation, collaboration. Competition is so silly.
Yeah.
And selling something that sells itself, like I say, diminishes what it does, right? If something would have been sold and you go in with a sales pitch with it, it diminishes the service and product. So that's what I think we're on the above board side. Yes. And, there's no reason to take shortcuts. There's no reason to hurt anybody,
Well, I think it's also not even just, it's working smarter. If somebody already has learned from something, learn from them. Because it shortens your learning curve for one. And one of the things that came up while you were just talking is for me, and what Christy and I have been talking about, offline, and we'll be launching our own show coming up here too, is there's something so powerful. You can go to a profile and read it, but it's all about your perception. Like if I'm in a bad mood and I go read something, I'm pulling out the little negative tidbits from that profile because I need to fulfill my bad mood. But if I'm in a great mood when I go read it, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, this person is amazing. But when I meet them in person or see them and see how they interact, it could be a totally different human because I'm reading based on my own perception. So I think how I posted it when I reposted about our show yesterday, that I said, get to know the people behind the profile. What a great way to see someone. And with, so many job seekers, take the time to do a live so that people can see who you are. I mean, it's so much different to read, a resume and all those things. And I should probably do a little caveat so that my LinkedIn profile does need to have a makeover. Christy hasn't done it yet. So I don't want anyone to look at mine and go like, oh, this is her work. No, she has not given her little sprinkling. It's okay. It's not to its highest and best use. And I think one of the things that Don, you and I talked about at the very beginning, before I even started coming on the lives, was I've spent my career marketing other people's businesses or other people's things, products, them, and not me. And I just kind of was like, oh my gosh, like I'm sitting back going, I don't do anything for myself that I do for everyone else. But then there's also that thing of I view myself differently than you view me. And so profile or even, a resume or writing something about yourself is a little bit more difficult, or I certainly struggle with it. And I find it to be pretty common actually with most marketers. Cause then I was like, how do you guys do with yours? And they're like, oh, we're totally the same, because you're used to seeing it in others and you can pull out the best of what they have, whether it's with them personally or their business, their product. But when it comes to looking at you, we don't see ourselves the same way. So that was just kind of interesting, which is why I do think it's great to have someone else, take a look and help you zhuzh it up. Get away from all that corporate garbage. I mean, people want to see some of a personality. Now, I'm not saying push the envelope so it's so crazy, because I have seen a few that have pushed the envelope and it gets attention, but I don't know that that's going to get you a job necessarily. But you need to put some personality in there. Take some time to put your headline more than just, make it a sentence, make it, I love how you changed your profile, Don. I mean, you took all the sales aspects on. Now it totally has a completely different feel that matches what you're doing here. I mean, so it's great. And it is those small things that really do make a difference. And again, going back to doing LinkedIn Lives, come on and do so. If you're looking for a job, I mean, I would be all about doing that. Get out and do your resume, pitch yourself. I mean, have fun with it and let people see who you are, as opposed to, reading you on the paper, or for never getting into, past ATS or past the HR desk, because that seems an impossibility these days. I hear a lot of complaints about people saying, I put my resume in and I never hear anything. And it's just this, black hole that goes nowhere. And it's so frustrating, but maybe a fun way to get some, some eyeballs on you by doing it, and people to see you, to be like, oh my gosh, this person seemed great. I'm going to go look at them and see, you can turn it around a little bit. I mean, just a thought that came to mind when we were talking about all this. So what do we got people seeing there on the side? And the bullet.
Well, Ambombola says there is so much learning and inspiration. I just love attending events like this. They'll lift up my spirit and make me realize something special about myself. And, that's the magic of what we're doing, is everybody in some way, shape, or another improves themselves by acknowledging themselves and the greatness within themselves, right? Whatever you are is a factor of who you've been with and what you've been involved in. And a lot of that is taking legacy into the future when it should just get exchanged for the optimized version. And the thing is while you're talking, you're listening. And while you're listening, you're learning. And while you're learning, you're making adjustments, because if everything continues from, quality intentions to quality actions, then it should be quality innovations. I used to go to these conferences, financial conferences. I know, there was one every year that was held in Vail, and people all over the world would come in, and I mean, really major people. And I'd always be on panels, and I was invited like 12 years in a row. And what struck me one year, the publisher of Wired magazine was there, and this is 10, 12 years ago. And he said, anything that can be free will be free online, and whoever gets there first will win. So like AOL, if they would have given away free email before Gmail, they'd probably be there, right? Or Netflix and Blockbuster. So the point is, we're dealing with LinkedIn 3.0 here, right? There's people who aren't on LinkedIn, total disadvantage. There's people at least have a bulletin board with their face on it, that maybe someone may see. And then there's some people who work it like a couple points. And then there's people who work it well, consistently, committed, very rare. And that's what the mob is, around 900 million people. Now, when you get to LinkedIn Live, you're talking about thousands, if that. I mean, I'm here every day. I see everybody who does it. I can't name you more than 20 people. And even if I'm wrong by 10, that's 200, or by 100. And they're all talking about something else. And the other thing is, where there's no competition, everybody's who they are, and they're only going to be benefited when they show who they are.
Yeah.
Right. And no one can be you, and you shouldn't want to be someone else. Everybody can run their own race. So, that's what's so empowering about this. What do you think, Kelle? This is just amazing.
I totally agree. And I even think, and I can speak for myself on this too, is coming on, I initially, and it was cute because Kendra mentioned this last Saturday when I talked to her, I was nervous, and not about having a conversation. It was just about, being live. Like, there's something that's intimidating about it. But I'm telling you, and everyone that I've known, that, Kendra does a podcast, so she's got a lot of experience. But Christy, the same thing. Like, when she came on, and it was just kind of like, oh, wow, that was kind of cool. And it also sparks something in you. Like, this had been so beneficial for me, just as an individual, being like, oh my gosh, this is so great. What an awesome way to be able to reach people and to help make a difference. And it's not only for them, it is for me too. I mean, it definitely comes back by giving. And I just love the whole, what we were talking about before I came on. It's universal, what we're sharing. It's just a support community, being there, because I'll go back to what I say. I think every episode is, when we feel support and safe, we can explode into things that we never thought, because we feel safe to try, because we're surrounded by people who are rooting for us and like, yes, try it, go. And I think that's sort of what we've done with Christine over the time, is like, girl, you need to get on. And she'll be here on the 4th. But the other shows that you were referencing too, I do have to say, I haven't watched any that I'm like, I need to tune back into this one, because they feel just scripted and boring. And I'm like, I think we just, as human beings in this world right now, we just need a dose of positivity, and to be around somewhere where I can, like I said, come in and I feel good when I leave. It's an extra bonus if I learned something, but I feel good. And that's what I think we all want. And that's what's happening here. And I don't believe that's happening on any of the other LinkedIn Lives that I've seen. And also not trying to imitate something else, because that's not you. I think the reason this resonates with your co-hosts is because we're all just showing up as ourselves. We're not trying to say anything that, we heard someone else say and it went over well. Because it never comes out right when you're trying to act like you're someone else. Now, like repeating some of your your analogies and sharing wisdom that we've heard from others, that's different because we're sharing it from our perspective and how it impacted us. Um, but just being yourselves, and I think that's just something too that's so special because people are, where everybody's attached to this thing,
Mhm.
which is so crazy. And I always find it ironic that it's called the smartphone, because it sucked the smarts out of people's heads that they don't have to think anymore. But it's about getting back to this face to face and having interaction with other humans and remembering what it's like to connect. Because we've all been so pulled away and isolated, and getting back to these seemingly basic things, I feel people are really hungry for, and which is why this resonates. That's my belief, and like I said, I don't think there's any competition, and I'm not saying that because I'm on here, because I wouldn't be on here if I didn't believe in it. And I mean, I believe in it wholeheartedly, and I love how it has organically grown, and the participants, and just the format that it's taken on, and watching the numbers just honestly is so gratifying. And as a marketer, of course, I geek out over numbers like that, but that's phenomenal. And I just love watching what's happening, and I hope the growth continues and the message reaches more, because like you said, this content isn't, it's evergreen. There's very few things that everybody has said that over time, you know maybe certain strategies that we talk about or allude to, or tips, tricks will change a little bit, but the true message of every episode is evergreen, and it will resonate regardless of where you are in the world or what the time frame is.
Yeah, I mean, you just said so much that has so much value that I could take another hour just addressing a lot of the points you brought up, which is so cool because it provides efficiency in listening and learning. If people can share a lot in a digestible way that's also interesting, has some entertainment value to it, makes people feel better, like you say, than they did before. And when you can, and that's why I'm trying to template everything in advance. I'm not trying to work with live ammunition here, so whatever I'm doing to get 1 million impressions a year can give anybody, relatively speaking, depending on their stage of how many connections they have and what they do, a significant competitive advantage. But the beauty of it is because we're trying to be a door that opens instead of a door that closes. A lot of people's, like I say, mousetrap is to get you in and lock you in.
Yes.
We got 50 in the room, close the doors, no one's getting out. And my feeling is you got more doors that are wider than any other place to come and go, because when you respect people's freedom and you encourage their freedom, that's another thing they're not getting in other places, right? Because you know why? People got an overhead, and that eventually takes precedence over their intentions or virtue or the way they treat people. So, we got to cover our rent, we got to cover, or we're out of business. And now it's about their business and themselves versus someone who just says, I can wait. I can continue to give more value. And I'd rather have everybody laughing and having a ball and say, okay, now next week, everybody's got to pay the rent here or contribute to make this sustainable. Because at a certain point, people stop worrying about themselves and they start protecting things that nourish them, right? And that's where everybody has to turn, because I believe there's value. And if there's enough value, everybody gets paid by the value they receive, not the cost. And the biggest commitment is time, but the other commitment is commitment. That's why I don't add something I can't keep, transporting. It's like going on a road trip and you find another way to put another bundle on top of the car. The car still gets you where you're going. And that's what I see with this is, when you got open field you just run.
Yeah.
You don't look back. You don't look at the score, because it hardly ever happens that you're just all alone in joy, and you know it's going to happen again tomorrow. It's just the opposite of being depressed and anxious,
Yeah.
where the next day is something you don't look forward to, you
Hmm.
know, and waking up is maybe the hardest part of the day. But anyways, Joshua's here. Thank you, Joshua. Don't
Thanks,
try to imitate somebody, something else. That's not you. Wow, I feel it. And the thing is, what's wrong with you?
great.
Why not show who you are? Why not be proud? Because here's another thing, and I was relating that to what I was saying about Kelle sharing what she just did. Is I see Kelle as somebody that is like a perfect fit for something like what we're doing, that someone else may not see, because they're not doing it and they're not looking for it and they don't have comparisons, right? And they're looking for somebody that'll help them versus somebody to strategically partner with, right? To find a home where they're already happy. Why go from a happy home to an unhappy home because it's going to pay you something to be something you don't want to be? I mean, it's just so, it's like it's like hitting yourself with a hammer and doing it again. There's Ambin Ball, and never try to be who you're not. It takes too much time.
Right. It's exhausting.
Yeah, if you just do it the right way, you're going to have extra time for yourself. And here's the thing. If you're real straight with everybody and honest, you don't need a memory.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, I don't remember I don't remember certain things I tell the truth all the time. Like adding in the complexity of lying or trying to imitate, like I don't I would not be able to function at all. It's hard enough to remember the truth on the regular, because I think the biggest lie I always say that I tell myself every day is I'll remember that.
Yeah, and why should you have to?
Right.
Why can't something that's said be done, right? And the next thing you say will reinforce it and they'll know it. But if
Mhm.
you can't keep up with your stories, or you're concerned what people think,
Yeah.
again, you gotta ask yourself, where'd this come from and who is this person that I will believe them over me, and make myself feel bad. Because some things you just we talked about it, comfortably uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Well, you just say, yeah, I can deal with it. But once you start compromising, you're negotiating with yourself,
Yep.
right? And you're negotiating down. Is
Yes.
what's the minimum? What do I have just to get me through? Versus like, hey, forget that. That was yesterday's story.
Mhm.
Today we're going to change the movie that we're playing at the theater, and we're going to go for a comedy, right? Or we're going to go for a romance, or we're going to go for anything that isn't a horror story, a
Oh,
special effects thing. So, anyways, everybody knows, but a lot of times, because there's so many people that prey on those people,
oh gosh, yeah.
that now they got a double problem where they're at, and maybe it could get worse. And if
Yeah.
you can just tell scared, frightened, anxious people, you're safe. You can be here and no one's going to bother you. And I think that's really the key going forward, is not curating the content, curating the people, right? Because the people are the content. And if you bring in salesy, scammy type people, and that's why people should just band together and not tolerate any disrespect.
Mhm.
I'll never give anybody any disrespect. I can assure you that, because I just, I wouldn't be comfortable. It'd be like going out of your way to be something you don't want to be, for some unknown reason. So that's what I say is, as people value you and you start to know who those people are for who they are by what they do, like Kelle says, because you could talk all day, but eventually people show up. And I think that's the cool thing about LinkedIn Lives and being a co-host, is you crossed a barrier, you know, you moved into a new territory.
Mhm.
And now you've got a new skill set. So even if you're looking for a job, which I don't advocate anybody try to do, and the funny thing is nobody wants anybody anyways.
Yeah,
And
it's
if you know, and if you get a job today, you won't have a job in 6 months. So it's not like you got a life preserver. You know, you got a timeout until you're back into the ocean again. But by having video skills, by having a video portfolio of showing 5 or 6 shows you co-hosted or hosted or developed, that's a benefit to any organization. You know, whether it's for
oh
profit
gosh.
or not. And it shows that hey, you've got video and online presence, and you know how to develop it. So while you're looking, develop yourself. So in one day you can say, I'll hire myself. I don't need anybody else. And I can go to work tomorrow, right? And I'll work harder for myself, or I should, than I'm going to be working for someone I don't know, I don't care about. And I know in most cases, not universally, they don't care about me, right? If they can find somebody faster, better, cheaper, I'm out the door, you
That's
know?
right. I mean, I know people have a hard time understanding, and I know I have coached so many people over the years about it, is organizations don't care about you, and that's nothing personal. It's exactly what you said a little bit earlier. You know, it goes by numbers. What are their revenues? And then they make adjustments. It doesn't matter that, you know, that they love Kelly, who's in, you know, head of marketing for the US. When they're doing cutbacks, you're going to get cut. And it's
Mhm,
not personal. And you know, and I certainly can say for me in 2020, because that did happen to me, and it was the first time in my career where I couldn't get a job. And it was terrifying in the sense of, you know, one, I was isolated. I mean, I love myself, but I could only handle so much of me
mhm,
alone. And I couldn't get hired as a marketing executive during that time period. I mean, good luck. I got into a couple of interview cycles, which of course executives, I swear it just seems like they add more and more interview. I mean, it takes months to get through the interview process. And they were getting put off, you know, sorry, now we're going to put it past Labor Day. Now it's going to be after the holidays, then after the
mhm,
election, which is why I say, you know, I'm an accidental consultant because thankfully I did have someone on LinkedIn reached out to me, a local startup here in Arizona called Edmanity that needed some help with their marketing, and we're looking for someone with my skill set because I'd worked with so many startups in the past. So it's just that, and during that time period, it was very depressing for me, and I mean,
mhm,
very situationally depressed. And it's also interesting because, and I've talked to Christy about this actually quite a bit, is when you're the positive person, and I tend to be the person that is either like the peacekeeper or where people come to for advice, and it can really look at things and find, you know, the positives and things to focus on, what have you, the, you know, the positive person. And when a positive, upbeat extrovert, for the most part, is depressed or says they're depressed, people don't know what to do with us because it's like,
mhm,
oh, well, you can't be depressed. You're fine. You'll be okay. And it's like, no, I really, I'm feeling this thing because I've never in my career, I've always been sought after, or people when I was working at jobs, you know, hey, you do this niche and you're expert in broker dealer communications. We need you. And it's always nice to know that you're needed, even when I was at a company that I loved at the time. Um, but then to get to a place where like, oh my God, I'm actually applying places and I'm not even getting an interview. Um,
mhm,
or when I did get in the interview funnels, the positions ended up going away and I couldn't even get hired for a lower position job, because they were like, well, you're overqualified. And like, that is the worst, the worst line. And I hated that. So this all the way around about reinventing and redoing, like, what is my future going to look like? I need to take control over it because I can't really rely on a business.
mhm.
So I think this is part of it. And you and I talked about this at the beginning of the year, Don, when we, reconnected for lack of a better term, and had a call. Is I just kind of was feeling sort of in a funk again, not bad. I wasn't feeling depressed, I would say. Just kind of in a funk, and needing, like, hey, I need to shake some of this off, and I need to do something. I need to jump out of that plane, as I mentioned before. And this was it for me, in the sense of I faced a fear, because I did think I was afraid to get on a live broadcast. Um, and anybody that knows me, I know, has laughed, because they're like, it's not like you have a hard time talking. Um, so that wasn't the problem. It was just, that fear of the unknown, and the fear of partially of being judged, because social media is just so known as, the troll zone. And
Mhm.
but LinkedIn is not that. LinkedIn is a totally different platform, and it's been nothing but support. I mean, and for everyone. I mean, because I do feel like very mama bear to certain guests, or people who are even guests or in the chat, that are here. There's never been even close to a foul or negative thing
Mhm.
stated. There's been the beauty of watching people share their vulnerabilities, and healing, and reminding, like, Ambibola. I feel a sisterhood with her, because I know we've had a similar life experience. and
Mhm.
and that's the things that are, and she's in Nigeria, and I'm in Arizona, in the United States. And she makes a difference in my day when she comments on things. And
Mhm.
knowing that, we've messaged privately also, but just knowing that there's that connection can also, and it goes to the whole thing, make you feel something, and you leave here feeling a little bit better. So again, I know that was a very long answer, but you know me, I don't have a hard
Yeah,
time.
listen, I can listen to you for hours, and I think that's why you found your niche, is because why not take what you know has more value than conventional, traditional methods of interviewing or not interviewing provide, which is totally superficial. A lot of the people who are hiring aren't in a position to hire anybody,
Yeah.
because they're really not qualified, or there's ulterior motives, right? Where people are advertising for something, but they're not selecting what they're advertising, right? It
Mhm.
could be like, who's going to be dumb enough never to take my job away from me, you know? Or who do I want to go golfing with next month? Or things like that, that you have no idea that's what you're competing against. And it's so, I wouldn't say sordid, but it is, because it affects a life. It's
Mhm.
not just a conversation. A person goes to work for somebody, they're putting in the best 40 hours they got, plus preparation, plus drive home, plus thought at work. You're just, unless you're like 10 years old and you got a lot of years ahead of you, to invest 3, 4, 5 years in a negative situation with negative people. In those 3, 4, 5 years, you'll be a keeper for yourself.
Yeah.
Work hard for yourself and have something forever, because no one can take your voice. And once people love who you are, and you're loved by people who deserve to be with you, right? That you don't have to qualify to get in the door, knowing it ain't much of a door to begin with.
Right.
And
You may
that's
not
why,
want to walk in.
the thing is, I've had the benefit of meeting some unbelievable people in some unbelievable situations, and learning the grace they have, the patience they have. I mean, making serious big decisions, but doing it in the best of ways. And when you see how that operates, and how that's what made them successful, you bypass the sophomoric stuff that people are just learning as they're going, but they got to give themselves the title before they earn it, just because that's what they're trying to represent.
Mhm.
Versus just, hey, what about you? What about me? And at a certain point, it's like, okay, I see what I need to either way, and you bless everybody along the way, And another thing is what's good for you is good for other people. And when you look at how many people in your life impacted you the most? Even if you could narrow it to 5 people, right? Family, friends. How many people here right now are supporting you and acknowledging the greatness within you? You got probably 10, 12 right here, and then another probably 15 who aren't here. So you got like 27 super fans. People are rooting for you. People want to see you get to the top because you deserve it, not because you just fell into it. I mean, there is something to timing and positioning, but there's something to seeing an opportunity to say, hey, this is making me feel alive. This is making me feel whole. And this is giving me the kind of company I wish I always had. But the beauty of not having is you appreciate having so much more when you get it back.
Amen.
Because it's so easy to take things for granted on the way up, give yourself a lot of credit. And all of a sudden, when the floor gets pulled from under you and you drop 10 stories into the basement and you're in a dark place and you got to climb out, when you finally do get to the top again, everything looks brighter, everything looks happier. And you know what you find? There's something called redemption. There's something called reinvention. Christy had to leave. Kevin's here. Kevin's a great guy. Ambo Fax, Ambambola. I have to leave now and want to show up, even if it's 15 minutes there. I appreciate you guys. You're so appreciated because one thing I'll say, Ambambola, you show up every day, and 90% of winning is just showing up. Right? Yeah. Because eventually everything gets learned. And then you feel good because you made an investment that paid off. I mean, if you keep making the right investments in the right activities with the right people, it's like painting one room in a house. You got to paint all the rooms because everything looks dull once you got that one painted room.
That's right. And I think it's so important to, the part is showing up. She's showing up and I'm showing up, and I think everyone else is, for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the beauty of it, is show up for you. Like, you matter. I matter. I mean, and that's, and it helps your mindset. So I do think it is, you're showing up, even if it's 15 minutes, but you're showing up for yourself because you're taking away something that's making you feel better. And it's getting your day started, interim or ending with a positive note. And I mean, that's so important. And it seems so simple. And I know people have heard those things, thousands of times. It's all about your mindset if you just tell yourself. But it's true. That's why everybody says it. And so, the mindset and surrounding yourself with people who are also, in the same mindset of positivity and when I say promotion, I mean it in the sense of, like you said, there's people, I love people who want to support, because it's like, hey, you know what? And I have been with someone that, wanted to dull my shine as much as they possibly could. And they did, because I gave that power away at one point in my life. But now I'm like, I want to be around people that want me to shine as bright as I possibly can, and vice versa. It doesn't mean I want to be above anyone. I want to be around people and I want to see them shine just as bright, because together, the light that we share is it's beautiful. And I've never understood people, but it's because I'm not wired that way, that want to hold people down. One of the things I loved about management, and how I got into corporate coaching at all, was because I was able to deal with individuals and find their strengths and weaknesses, and be able to push or assist, however you want to say, for them to achieve even higher levels of success in their positions and or their career paths. There's nothing that feels better than that, than being part of watching someone grow and light up a little bit more. And I do think that's what happens here, and I love it. And I mean, I love how it makes me feel. I know that me internally and likely externally is shining brighter than it was at the beginning of the year before we had our conversation. So, and I thank people that are here, that show up, that have messaged me, that have connected. And of course you, and things are going to be happening with Christy, the connections I've made with other people in the conversations that we've had offline. Jason and I have connected. I'm going to be on his podcast at some time. So it's just beautiful to be around people. And it goes to what you said too about the opening the doors, doing something and just being yourself, just for the sake of, whether or not you want to look at it from a sense of service or how you want to frame it, you're opening doors that you never knew would have been there to begin with. So jump into it, because like I said, who would have thought that I would come on here and connect with some woman in Nigeria almost immediately and have this, sisterhood with her. But again, for, just personal connections and what I'm saying is putting yourself out there and just being you is opening doors that you never, ever would have imagined, because it just all starts coming. And it's just kind of that whole ease. And it, again, to say, we all have heard it, get your mindset and it will all come to you. It does. Because when we have a positive mindset, when we face the world, we look at it in a way to pick out all the positive things to feed our belief. When we believe it's ugly and negative, we go out and we look for those to confirm that belief. So it is small things. If it's just 15 minutes that you can spend in the morning, so you can get that mindset of feeling positive, supported, safe, whatever word it is that you want to take, that's awesome, because you will start your day much different than you would if you didn't do it and you were just feeling crappy and you watched something that made you feel bad. And now you're going to probably face the day much different, and it's going to be a totally different experience. And it's just a fact, and it seems so simple, and it is. And I think once you do it, and I falter every once in a while. I'm human, but I'm aware of it. I so notice it when it happens to me, like at the beginning of the year. Life is just grand. I mean, I love how people respond to me differently, but I'm noticing it because I feel good about receiving all of the positivity and love from people around me. And, that sometimes is a scary thing for some people too, is like, well, ooh, I don't want to do that because I don't know how to receive all of that.
Mhm.
But it feels great, and it feels great to give it back out. And it does go to the whole ripple effect, because I 100% believe, oh, she's back. I
Mhm.
100% believe you cannot. And you've used the example about laughter, and like, my mom and I are that way. We will be dying laughing and crying, and my stepdad will have no idea what we're laughing about. And he'll start laughing almost as hard as we are, because it's just, you can't help it. And I feel it's the same way with positive energy, faith, whatever word you want to put around it, light that's shining, positivity that's coming out of someone. You can't help but take it in yourself. And even smiling at someone. I do this on the regular. When I'm out, I will try to look at the person that looks kind of down and say, hi, good afternoon, or something, or maybe just a smile. And to see even their body posture change or something. And it's just like, that one little thing could have made the difference in that person's day. And it's like, how simple was that? And I feel like, to go back to what you initially started saying, I've been in a place where I lost everything and I had nothing. And I mean nothing, my light was out. But what I did to try to get it back is I made sure that I would get up, get dressed, go out, and I would try to smile at someone, knowing that they would smile back, and try to, slowly sort of get those things back, to get my light going. Because it's true, when someone smiles at you, it's hard not to, especially when it's genuine, and there's just something magic about all of it. And so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, Dawn?
I think that you cover a lot of ground there, and it's very simple if you make it simple, and it gets really complicated if you want to complicate it. I think that people get down to basics. Beyond breathing, it's organize your thoughts, get your mindset right. Organize your time, get your time investments right.
Mhm.
Organize your people, get that right. And
Yes.
then ask yourself with a positive mindset, with proficiency, with positive intent and the right people, what can you put together? I mean, if you work for a company and they say, we want you to create an event, right? Invite a bunch of people, get the hall, get the catering, whatever it is, you go to work and get it done. So, but some people need someone to put pressure on them, to stress them out to get things done, right? And other people are just natural. And I'm saying, why would you want a filter between you and yourself that takes your time and energy away? And organize it. I mean, if you're going to hire yourself to do this, are you going to work 8 hours a day? I mean, really work, not just read comments, not just send returns, but how many people are you reaching out to? I've got 4 calls today. And you know what I like about this? Not only is the service and product showing its value, and who knows how much value, because you can look at statistics like, yeah, I'm up 92%, which is significant, but you can't measure certain things that have even greater value.
That's
Is
right.
and here's another thing I'm seeing, and it's going to be even more obvious. When you are around people that love and care and support you, the people that you put up with are going to look even scarier now.
Yes. So
You,
true.
you
So
know, and the jobs that you somehow accommodated somehow. And I'm hearing this. I just quit this. I just gave that client up. I ended that relationship, you know, because first of all, they got a better thing going now. They got a transfer they can make to get on the right side with the right people, and they're going to need extra time. And the time they were trading that wasn't benefiting anybody involved. And when you're with someone who brings you down, it also starves you from being able to give to them.
yeah.
So it's a double loss. So instead of win win win, you're getting to lose lose lose. And I think that the point is, why do people do that and end up like that? Is because people start out a certain way and they grow apart. That's how it happens. Someone got to learning, someone didn't want to learn, somebody wanted to go somewhere, someone didn't, and eventually you're together living separate lives, and then everybody wants you to be where you were because that's where they were happy with you. So I mean, it's simple if you just break it down, and then no one's guilty. It's just the natural way of things. Some
Right.
people go to the right, some people go to the left. But if they're going to the right and you're going to the left, you got to keep going to the left, and they need to keep going to the right.
Mhm.
And until someone says no, that's when things change. And most people, it's just, well, it's easier to put up with it. I know what, it's excuses. So not to get into the negative, but that's why this is so valuable, because I haven't met a person here that when you finally got to know them, you found out that there was always something that just like everybody else deals with. It might have been a different name, a different event, different severity, but everybody's been knocked down. Everybody's been dragged down. Everybody's living in this world. You can't escape it, even if you want to, but you can find an island in the sun. And that's what I wanted this to be, is like, hey, when you're frazzled, wouldn't it be nice to have 10 days in the Caribbean, right? With just the ocean and the sand. And not only that, add 40 of your best friends who are having parties all day and all night, just celebrating their joy and bliss. You can do it with 40, and there's 4 million who are hungry for it. It wouldn't be hard to attract people once everybody's having a good time. And in conclusion, people are hearing about us. I'm getting people outside, speakers, podcasters who love what we're doing because we started out with that as an intention. And too many people try to get bigger and then they try to get better, and the foundation and everything is in place. when if you start fresh and clean and keep it clean and fresh, you know, and helping people. And I just love these stories of just one person, like Kelle says, uh, decided just to put a smile on, that in itself would be a win. But if people decide this is the day things change, or this is the day I owe it to myself, right? I've heard so many people, it's like Independence Day, right? This is the day I declare myself me. And I got a group that will help me even when I'm not quite there, and nobody's quite there. There's a saying, start before you're ready, right? Because you'll never be ready if you wait. So with that, Kelle, the time just flies.
I know.
Words.
Well, gosh, yeah, I can't believe it's been an hour. I mean, that is so crazy, which is the other thing, because even when I listen, it never seems like it's an hour. I just thank you so much for everyone who's on. I'm so glad Ambola came back. Like, that honestly made my day. So day made. And I just love where this is going, Dawn. And I can't wait to see where it continues to take us. Because like you said, I believe we have only just begun.
Oh yeah, and you're absolutely right like that. And I just can't tell you how proud I am to see how you've blossomed and grown and really made this just mesh with who you are, and who you are mesh with the medium. That there was nothing lost along the way, actually was added, because everybody sees what I see, you know, the same way is, oh, this is Kelle this week, you know, versus Kelle last week. And next week you'll be different again in a better way. And, you know, it's like watching a beautiful flower grow, you know, where you keep coming back to it. So anyways, and that's for everybody. Ambola, I'd love to have you as a co-host.
Yes.
You know, actually, I've got tomorrow and Saturday, I've got opening if someone's interested. If not, I'll make it, you know, open mic and other people can jump on. But, you know, this is so cool. So anyways, it'll be 2 hours and we'll think it was only an hour if we keep talking.
That's
so,
right.
Goodbye for now. Come back tomorrow and we'll do it again.
Have a great day.